Hello friends and neighbors. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk to you a little bit about legends and lore here in the Philippines. I've been here 20 years and I've heard a lot of really weird things. And I want to share a few of those things with you. I think you're going to find them kind of interesting. But before we get started with the video, we got to do the honors. Let's roll it. Welcome friends and neighbors to this particular episode. We're going to be talking about Philippine lore, legends, and superstitions. And one of the reasons we want to talk about this is because over the 20 years that I've been in the Philippines, I've come to realize that many superstitions and legends and creatures of fairy tales and childhood bedtime stories are widely believed by Filipinos at large. Not just a small segment of the population. I even talked to one of my staff earlier, and I said, today we're going to be talking about Kapre. And my staff was like, oh, wow, Kapre. I heard about those. I know about those. I'm like, do you believe in them? Well, yeah, they're real. Okay, so here we're going to talk about Kapre, because many people believe they're real. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Who knows? Kapre is an animal here in the Philippines, or a being, let me just say being, in the Philippines, that is described largely as what might be called a tree troll, or some people might even say a tree demon, depending on the way you want to look at a Kapre. Now, a Kapre is a legendary being, rumored to be between 7 and 9 feet tall, and is akin to what we might call Bigfoot in North America, or in other parts of the world, a Yeti, or an abominable snowman, or something along that line. The Kapre is very large. It's covered with fur. It's known to be quite smelly because it doesn't have a propensity for bathing. And it's also well known that the Kapre smokes continually either a ganja pipe or a cigar. And this explains why in the evening you might see a mist among the trees. That's actually the smoke coming from the ganja pipe or cigars being smoked by a Kapre. Or you might see fireflies. Well, those may not be fireflies. Those just might be ashes from that ganja pipe or that big cigar that the Kapre is smoking there in the forest. Now, unlike some particular beings, the Kapre is not known for being particularly violent or evil or mean or anything like that. It's known for being kind of playful and likes to joke around and is kind of a prankster in many ways. But it can also be quite protective, especially of the animals nearby or the local forest nearby. It doesn't like you chopping down its trees. And, of course, it can even be protective of the local villagers who happen to be living in the area. Now, what does a Kapre wear, anyway? Well, a Kapre is rumored to wear one of several things. Bahag, which is a native Philippine clothing from the northern Philippines, kind of like a loincloth. Kapre might also even be naked, which is a little bit unseemly, especially since they're largely male. We've never heard of a female Kapre. Or they might be wearing leaves to cover the dangly bits. You never know. Or it's even rumored to wear a belt. And it's a magical belt, mind you. And that magical belt renders the Kapre to be invisible. But it's rumored to render the Kapre invisible on every day except Friday. I don't know how that happened. Belief in the Kapre run deep. in Philippine lore and legend. It's even stated that Emilio Aguinaldo, the first president of the Philippines, walked down a bridge to his comrades to discuss the plans for his next attack against the Spaniards, who he was at war with at the time for Philippine independence. He heard a noise under the bridge near his house, and of course, naturally, he was shocked. He went under the bridge, and he saw something he had never seen before. A Kapre. Shocked. He was surprised and shocked. He reached for his gun and pointed it at the Kapre and shouted, "Alis!" which means go away, translated into English. And the Kapre replied, "Don't shoot me. I can give you something as a gift if you don't shoot." Slowly, Emilio lowered his gun and said, "What can you give me?" The Kapre said, "I can give you a magical stone. It can make you immune from any attack." Now see, in Philippine legend and lore, the Kapre possess a white stone about the size of a quail egg. And this stone is their prized possession. And if you ever possess this stone, the Kapre will become docile to you and even be a servant or a protector to you and even grant you wishes. In this case, with Aguinaldo, the Kapre said, "This stone can make you immune to any attack. You'll be invincible," the Kapre told him. So the Kapre gave Emilio this magic stone, and he took a good look at it. It was white and shiny, and he looked at the place where the Kapre was and noticed that suddenly the Kapre had disappeared. He went back up on the bridge and continued to walk to his comrade's base to discuss his plan regarding the Spanish. During the battle, Emilio Aguinaldo, the first president of the Philippines, noticed that he was fighting very well. He dodged every bullet the Spaniards shot and shot back with such accuracy. His comrades even congratulated him after the battle. That night, he went back under the bridge where he met the Kapre again. After calling the Kapre for a few hours, the Kapre finally dropped off a balate tree he was hiding in. And let's remember that balate tree for just a couple of moments. Emilio said, "Here, I want to give this back to you." He held the magical stone out in his hand. And the Kapre said, No, you keep it. "Do you have any weapons on you?" Emilio said, "No, I don't have any more weapons on me." He asked, "What's your name?" The Kapre said, "My name is Dahon." Soon, he helped Emilio in all of his battles, giving him military advice and even being his personal guard. And once, he even protected his house from the Spaniards by deflecting their bullets back at them. As the years passed, Emilio and Dahon became more than friends and military comrades. Once, the Kapre even showed that he and his family had a fun time. "You know, when I was a kid, I always threw stones under the bridge at weird-looking tree," said Emilio. Emilio even said, "You know, when I was a boy, one time I looked under the bridge and I was throwing stones at a weird-shaped looking tree that looked like it was staring at me." And Dahon said, "That was probably my dad. He used to observe you humans. He even made friends with one. But one day he went to the woods and never came back." A sad, Dahon said. A few years later, Dahon went up from the bridge and went into Emilio's mansion to visit him. But when he went inside, he saw his body lying on the floor. Emilio said, "Take me to a hospital." So Dahon picked up Emilio, rushed him to the nearest hospital that he could find, and dropped him on the doorstep. Hiding in the tree next to Emilio's room, he heard the doctor say that Emilio couldn't survive. It was an extremely sad moment. He went into the woods his father disappeared into and hid in a tree, destined to stay there for all of eternity. And that's the story of a Kapre's friendship with the first president of the Philippines, Emilio Aguinaldo. And accounts of the Kapre's temperament vary significantly in folklore. I mean, some portray them as tricksters and pranksters who relish and they get really a lot of joy out of confusing and frightening people who happen to pass through the forest. Others depict them as capable of stealing livestock or even causing harm to people. But among these tales of mischief and even danger, there are stories of Kapres bestowing good fortune or magical items upon those who treat them with respect or make offerings. Notably, Kapres are said to dislike loud noises, like a lot of humans, and foul language, oddly enough. The legend suggests that individuals encountering a Kapre can deter them by creating a disturbance or throwing salt. Have you ever seen anyone in the Philippines throwing salt around their house or around their door? This can be a way of deterring Kapre. Kapre are also known to drive ambulances when people are making YouTube videos. Not really. But in this case, I'm willing to take that step. One of the things they like to do is cause people to become disoriented, as I mentioned, when they're in the forest or in the woods. And the way that you can, and of course, naturally, if you're wandering in circles, even in your own garden, you can be said to be under the spell or under the enchantment of a Kapre. One of the ways to break this enchantment is to wear your clothes inside out. If you take your clothes and turn them inside out and put them on, then this will break the enchantment of the Kapre. So, if you ever see a young couple running out of the woods with their clothes on inside out, rest assured that there was nothing going on, except for they probably just encountered a Kapre who confused them and made them lost, which is why they're late getting home. Nothing happened. Right. Kapre also have a very interesting rumored effect in that they sometimes have a love interest, or they might encounter a beautiful young maiden. And of course, the Kapre, being pranksters like they are, they might do something like steal her undergarments, who might be hanging to dry overnight, which would cause them, of course, never to be found again. Or even, in some more sinister circumstances, Kapre are rumored to visit young maidens in their homes, and perhaps even do a deed with a young maiden that they might be in love with. And of course, her, being completely enchanted, would easily succumb to the lusts, as it would be, of the Kapre. Which explains why, in some cases, a beautiful young maiden might inexplicably fall pregnant. Naturally, there's no other explanation as to how this could possibly happen, if not for a Kapre in the woods or forest nearby. That makes a lot of sense. As far as the clothes turned inside out and running out of the forest thing, I can tell you this. If I'm ever seen running out of a forest with a young maiden and our clothes are turned wrong side out and my wife is wondering what happened, it's definitely a Kapre. Yeah, it's not my fault. Nothing happened. That big guy in the trees made me do it. So, I don't know how much of the legend and folklore and superstition is real, or if this thing just happens to catch a lot of blame, which might otherwise be more sensibly and more sensibly, given to something else. But nevertheless, that's a Kapre. Also, Kapres are known to even enter people's homes and rearrange their personal belongings and cause things to go missing, such as the prankster nature of a Kapre. Either way, if my wife falls pregnant while I'm out of town and she wants to tell me it's a Kapre, well, we'll take inventory at that time. But the most famous and well-known Kapre of them all is the one that lives at the entrance of Malacañang Palace. That's right, the White House of the Philippines. There, in a balate tree, lives a Kapre by the name of Mr. Brown. How do we know this? Don Miguel Perez Rubio, that was the chief protocol officer for President Benigno Aquino III, uttered, "Hello, Mr. Brown," whenever he passed by the old balate tree in front of the state entrance of Malacañang Palace. Mr. Brown, Rubio told reporters, is a benevolent Kapre who calls the more than a century-old tree his home. And that tree is not an ordinary tree. President Aquino said, referring to Mr. Brown, that is a heritage tree. And it is the heritage home of Mr. Brown. Now, Mr. Brown has been seen by several people. Many stories have been told about Mr. Brown by the Marcos children, who used to delight in telling people stories about the Kapre and the balate tree in front of Malacañang Palace. There's also been noted rumors that, of course, in one instance, many of the guards were seen running about as if very confused, and accounted to being chased by a very large entity who was playfully sprinkling cigar ashes on their heads. Of course, no alcohol was involved, but many of the guards were seen running around, seemingly to be very afraid. And in one instance, a local driver, a cab driver, stopped in front of Malacañang Palace, got out of his taxi to light a cigarette, only to look up and see Mr. Brown towering over him and smiling with a lit cigar as he was trying to light his cigarette. Naturally, he ran into the servants' quarters, and the servants' quarters said, "No, there's no need to be alarmed. That towering giant is Mr. Brown. He is the Kapre who lives in the balate tree in front of Malacañang Palace." So, as we can see, and as we know, the belief in the Kapre run deep in Philippine culture and in Philippine legend and lore, and is even respected and saluted by members of the highest levels of Philippine government, including, in this case, the President and his chief protocol officer himself. So, what do you think about a Kapre? You can leave a message in the comment section below. Do you think they are real? Similar to the Bigfoot that in North America many Americans believe that are real? Or is this just simply a being of imagination? Well, if your wife ever ends up pregnant while you're out of town and she says that it was a Kapre, you can let me know where your chips fall. And let's just say that after 20 years in the Philippines, I've heard this story many times, and I have several more to go. So I'm looking to seeing you on the next video. Thank you for watching. I love you all, and I appreciate you. Please give me a like and a subscribe. It's free of charge. And ultimately, someday, I may get up to 20 subscribers. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, I'll do another video on Philippine legend, superstition, and lore coming very soon. I love you guys. Thank you very much. God bless. Be safe.